Never done this before.
Oh, this is neat, eh? No,
Facebook
I haven't
Live
done.
before?
No, never done this. I've watched it. It's pretty cool.
We're there. You don't need TV to make TV anymore. There's a phone.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? We used to have a giant TV thing and big lights and a bunch of guys with walkie-talkies.
Nobody here
like
on a phone.
Yeah, that is so cool.
Yeah. How you getting on?
I'm getting on great. I'm looking forward to tonight to watch it.
I know, it's exciting. I always actually like watching it on TV too, because like I see it through the edit process. I write the show. Obviously, we experience it back in June and July. But then I never see it in high quality picture or with the sound effects. So when I actually watch it on TV for the first time, it's exciting for me too.
Well, for me, it's actually a mystery, and people might not know that. But I'm around there for deliberations, and as you know, so often we end up in a tie, and it's genuine, and we're arguing away, and then you have to decide while I'm driving home. So I don't know what happened.
Right,
quite often.
That's one of my favorite parts of making the show is we have those honest deliberations. And then it comes down to a cliffhanger, and then I go, okay, cool, thanks, and we wrap, and I leave, and then all you four on the panel are saying, but who does graduate? And I'm like, I don't know yet.
And sometimes I'm sure that this is going to be easy. I'm pretty sure this guy's going to graduate, or this gal. And then, Shamala might say, I hadn't thought of it that way. And then I find myself changing my mind or thinking, what planet's she on? Tim's joining her.
I super enjoy that when people actually legitimately flip-flop. Like if they have a good idea, like person X should graduate, and then Philippe or you come up with a solid argument for the opposite, and people go, oh yeah, like maybe I was wrong. And when the panel convinces each other to do something different than they originally thought, I think it's magical as storytelling.
Well, it's kind of neat too, because we have rules, but then there's times we break the rules.
Of course. Like 14 years in, rules are mere guidelines, Cam. Please.
Oh yeah.
You were a police officer. You know that rules don't matter.
Well, actually, we used to say that police orders were gospel for fools and a guideline for everybody else.
Fair
it's sort
enough.
of the same thing.
Same thing.
And this year was kind of cool because we let the technology be used. For years we were disconnecting the ABS, which is actually very tricky because it's part of the car, and we'd have to have Robbie, our star mechanic, figure out how to make the car work with electronic systems disengaged. And this year we let everything work, even self-parking.
Self-parking, a trailer assist vehicle that couldn't jackknife the trailer. One of the amazing things that was a disappointment was we have a brand new, I can't say what kind of car yet because the show goes on tonight, but in reverse, we do the reverse flick. As you know, you go backwards at about 40 kilometers an hour, jag the car one way a little bit to load up the suspension, and then hook it the other way. Well, we got out to do it on the day. We didn't even bother test driving the car for the challenge because we've done it so many times. The car wouldn't go 40 in reverse. It had a limiter on it, and you floor it, and it goes all the way up to like 25, and then holds. There's no faster in reverse, and we called the car manufacturer company because the mechanics couldn't figure out how to turn that feature off, and the car manufacturer said, yeah, you can't turn that off. I'm like, yeah, but we want to disable it. Yeah, you can't. Sure you can. No, you can't. It's not possible to shut that off. So we had to use a different car.
I remember with police cars one year, the Crown Vic Interceptor no longer made. It had a thing like that for civilian use that we had to go to great lengths to disable. Otherwise, you couldn't get off the shoulder. You couldn't floor it. It wouldn't let you spin the wheels.
Is that
and
right?
You'd sit there, and you had to get launched on the highway. And sometimes you wanted to spin the wheels, as
cops love to do donuts.
That's why the cops were at the donut shop.
Of course,
different kind of donut. But we had to disable every one of them, and then when the car was ready for auction, they had to put the control back.
Oh, is that right? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
and now we probably own that car. We love the old cop cars on Canada's Worst.
Oh, and boy, they get punished, and that's without giving away any secrets. People love our cars.
Yeah, no, that's
and then some people get mad because of the cars get hurt.
We get letters because of the cars we've written off. As you know, the more classic, the more beautiful, the more old the car is, the more upset people are. Like, please don't ruin that car, and then it gets ruined.
I'm a car guy, and in the beginning, first thing I do is run when I get to the studio at the beginning. I see what cars are there and go talk to
Walking
mechanics.
through the fleet is.
And then I'm always thinking, oh, gee, maybe I'll see if I can buy this one. And And then buy usually
word to the wise: never buy a car that's been on Canada's
you-
First Driver because it's been driven into the ground.
I actually did buy one, and that was
Yes.
the Iltis, the Army Jeep.
Oh yeah. Didn't your wife use that for
Yeah,
her?
yeah, she did, and it is now in the hands of a military vehicle collector whose young son loves the show. The whole family watched the show together,
Yeah.
so they wanted it just because it was part of the show.
Because
And
it's part of the show.
it's both.
Yeah, that's cool. It is a family show. That's one of the things that I was really surprised by when it started to really take off, is that how many families watch it together. Youngsters watch it. I've been sent more videos of like 3-year-olds playing toy cars like on Canada's Worst Driver, like I'm driving around that thing, and their parents like it and older people like it. It really knows no bounds.
Yeah, I found that kind of interesting. In television news now, and a couple times I've been at, say, at a school, at a junior school, and kids are going, "Oh, it's Cam Woolley." Oh, they're watching our station. And no, they're watching Worst Driver. It's the guy from Worst Driver.
Yeah.
And they always want to ask about the episodes. And as you know, we're sworn to secrecy. If you want to know tonight, wow.
Yeah.
It's good. For the,
It is like on the show, like it's not like The Bachelor or something where the host goes like, "It's the craziest season ever." Like no matter what happens, that guy is like, "You won't believe the wild thing that's going to happen. It's the wildest ever." and I never do that on this show. But and here's the but this year the people have had more crashes than ever before. They've caused more damage than ever before. It's not hyperbole to say that the people on the show this season are more reckless and have caused more expense and suffering than any group we've ever had. It's remarkable. The 7 people on the show combined, when you tally up what they say they've caused in expense, is over $500,000. Like people staring at you with a straight face going, yeah, 50 accidents. It's like, 50? Not 50, yeah. And then when we talked to that person, there's a woman on the show named Brittany this year. Brittany, if you're watching, God love you, I love you. Holy cow, man, get it together. Brittany's told us that she had in the neighborhood of 50 accidents. And then when we get to a challenge like the shoulder check challenge, she says she's sideswiped 10 people. And I say to her, so 10 of your 50 crashes were sideswiping on the highway. That's outrageous. She went, well, no, those aren't accidents. They don't even list in the 50. So it's a wild season, really.
yeah, we had some close calls too. I think we've got to acknowledge that.
Close calls how?
Yeah, on set with some of the stuff that happened, where there's some spectacular wipeouts.
Spectacular wipeouts. I pride myself on the fact that nobody's ever been hurt on the show. No crew has ever come close to being hit. So like there were some spectacular wipeouts and some catastrophic failures, but nobody was ever in peril.
Yeah, that's the good thing. The way we've got it designed and using that World War II sort of bomber runway, it was good to practice land a bomber.
Everybody's away, and we know the behavior, where they can go wrong and how it could possibly go wrong. Like for example is the host of Holland's Worst Driver, or the Netherlands' Worst Driver, was hit on TV. He put himself in a place where he shouldn't have been standing, and he got struck by a moving car. You can watch it on YouTube. When it happened, dozens of people sent it to me. I'm like, people quit sending me this. I don't want to see the host of a bad driving show get nailed. But that doesn't happen on our show because we stay the hell away.
Oh, yeah.
We stay away.
Yeah, it is crazy though, some of the things that they do. They were close calls from the point of view that if that happened on a public road.
Oh, yeah.
That's how
for sure.
And that's why we don't do it there.
And that's why we don't do it there. There's one woman on the show this year had a catastrophic fail, as you can probably remember, and didn't realize she went through the wall.
Yeah.
Like, no, I didn't. Like, what are you talking about? Like, look behind you. And when she walked back through it, she was like, I didn't do this. I don't know how they made this happen. Like, what are they trying to... I didn't do this. Like,
that was bizarre.
Bizarre.
Yeah, she seemed to zone out.
Yeah.
And that's what people do. From my police background, investigating crashes, it is pretty common that people don't know what happened.
Yeah, right.
And sometimes because they don't want to admit what they did, but just as often they genuinely don't know. They're so shocked. And
that's it. It's the shock. I think that when the crash happens, they get so flooded with adrenaline that they're coherent in the moment, but they don't remember the moment.
Yeah, a lot of people say, well, I remember I was driving along. I was going to grandma's house or wherever it was.
What happened.
And then next time I'm in the tow truck or the hospital.
When you frame by frame it, in the edit suites, we frame by frame it to see like exactly what they did, and it's always the eyes. They might be looking here, and then they finally look at the thing, and just like we say on the show, look where you want to go, because that's where you will go. You see their eyes lock on whatever it is just before impact. And like when I say just before, sometimes it's 3 seconds. It draws them right to that thing.
And such a big message. And I know you've had this happen to you too. I have people come up to me in the street
all the time
and talk about that. I had a guy hug me in the gas station.
Yeah, I got a tweet message just yesterday that the show saved a person who was spinning out on the highway, and they just remembered to look where they wanted to go,
and then you're going to go.
And yeah,
because if you're looking at what you don't want to hit, your brain's going to say, "Get on, stay on the brakes." You're just going to slide.
Yeah.
Into that bridge,
whatever.
Police car,
oncoming traffic, whatever it is. Yeah, the releasing the brake while skidding out of control technique. I wouldn't have known that or known it so deeply had I not done the show. It saved me once on ice. Had an old truck that had no ABS, locked up the brakes, and started to skid right toward the guy in front of me, and I was going to hit him, and I just remembered I could actually hear Philippe release the brake.
Release my brake,
honest to God, it was in my head. I released the brake, looked into the oncoming lane, nobody there, and I turned and avoided the guy, and then saved me.
But how many people are still there? Pump the brake. You get all these false information from well-intended bumbling relatives.
Right.
Is not the place to learn.
Don't get your dad to teach you how to drive.
No. Yeah. You got to get somebody like Philippe.
Yeah.
Or Tim.
Yeah.
Now Tim's funny.
Find anybody in a golf shirt.
Yeah.
Get that person to teach you how to drive.
And when folks won't in the studio,
Tim, I'm talking to you, buddy.
Andrew teases Tim, tries to see if he can get him to blush.
I try to make Tim blush. When you sing "Hold Me Closer, Timmy Danter," and you dance with him, Tim loves it. Don't you, Tim?
Oh boy.
Who taught you to drive?
Well, my parents actually sent me to Young Drivers of Canada. I wanted to drive. My dad loves driving. My late father loved driving. Everybody in our family drove. I grew up around cars. My dad was a corporate lawyer that was involved in the car businesses.
Okay. And
that's all I wanted to do. And I drove tractors and things on the farm and boats and all this. And I got my license as soon as I could at 16. But I went and took my lessons there, and then later as a police officer we took advanced driving courses, and it was a lot of fun. And because we're driving, remember in OPP land, or provincial police, we're expressways. We're often traveling at really high speeds, sometimes 200 kilometers an hour or more, sometimes for extended periods, and stuff happened. And people say, "Oh, it's great to be a cop, you get to go fast." Well, once, because I was involved in collision reconstruction, I didn't find it fun.
No,
because you always
know
knew
what can happen.
You have to really balance the
200.
risk.
I've never gone 200. That would
There's and there's only certain conditions where you want to go that fast. But in bad weather and that, I see people go past, and I remember having a ride along one day. A young woman wanted to be an officer. She was with me, and a guy goes zipping by. She goes, "Aren't you going to follow him? Give him a ticket?" No, it's too dangerous. And sure enough, within a kilometer, there he was. There he was, spun out in the ditch. That's why.
Yeah. I didn't get my license till I was 27. Never cared. Didn't drive. Didn't take a lesson. My roommate taught me to drive on a stick shift. I bought a stick shift truck when I was 27 because I was going to drive from Vancouver back to Newfoundland, and I thought, I better get this figured out. So to force my hand, I bought the truck, and then I booked a license test, and I was driving that 8,000 kilometer drive within about a week of getting my license. Like the dumbest thing you could possibly do. Whenever the people come on the show and they say well, you don't understand, you're a great driver. It's like, oh no, I understand. I was a terrible driver. I was a late driver, learned late, and really was self-taught on the highway. It was fine to be on the highway, but being in a Tim Hortons parking lot, I was a disaster.
Well, I think that's one of the good parts of the show, because if you were some car guy, it wouldn't work.
In the season 1, the idea was we'll see an average driver do this course, and then we'll see Canada's worst drivers do the course. And the truth of the matter was, I wasn't an average driver. I was way worse than that. And honestly, and sometimes I would have to, full disclosure, I would have to do the courses 3 times in order to do it, and then say, wow, just that easy. Whereas now it's second nature. I can do all of those stunt driving maneuvers and all of the things. I like to say that the rehab center works in terms of educating drivers, and I know that firsthand because nobody's gotten more out of it than me. I'm like a very good driver now, and I frankly was not when I got the show.
That was kind of interesting how the show's developed too, is when we first got on, people would do anything to get off the island, so to speak. And
right.
now we're having people arguing with it. We say, okay, you're ready to go.
Yeah.
No, I want to stay.
That's right, yeah. At the beginning, it was very much like, you're the worst, not shame and humiliation, but that came with it. There was a certain schadenfreude of laughing at the bad driver, ha, you're the worst. Whereas now, and people really struggled to not be that person. And now, nobody really cares about the title. Everybody cares about the education they're getting. And like, do you want to graduate? Season 1, 2, 3, it was every single person wanted to graduate every single show so they could leave and not be burdened with the title. Now, almost every single show, no one wants to graduate because they want tomorrow's lesson.
What's interesting too is baby boomers all want their license when they're 16, but I find I work with millennials in TV that a lot don't have their license yet, or don't have a car, or don't want a car.
Big city people, like now that I live in Toronto, I know so many people that don't have a license or don't have a car and have no intention of ever getting one. Like, why? You don't need a car in Toronto. It's faster to use transit, it's faster to use a bicycle, it's an expense that's unnecessary. And so unless you're getting out of town, a car is, if you live downtown Toronto, there's no reason to have a car.
What's interesting too is adult learning's different. Teenagers
Yes.
will take risks, and they'll be the one that's going too fast on the highway. But an adult usually, they've seen all this stuff. I don't want to get in a crash. The other one's going too slow.
Right.
And we find that in the show. Some of them are timid. We got to give them the confidence. So there's a lot of learning in the show.
I mean, that's why the show works. Like, the show, some people think that it was a Canadian idea. The show was born in Britain, Britain's Worst Driver. And it was a game show, and they didn't teach anybody anything. They just laughed at the bad drivers. See if you can back up through here. Ha, you can't. And it was a game show. They gave people cars. If they graduated in the British original show, they got a free car. That was their motivation for going on. But the Canadian version, when Discovery said we'll make the show, they were like, we can't do a game show. We're not interested in that. Figure out the idea. Guy O'Sullivan and people at Discovery Channel figured out the idea, changed it, morphed it into an educational show. What if we teach them first and then test them based on how they'll do after receiving the lesson? And that is what makes the show work to this day. Without the educational component, like the English show, the Britain's show, I think lasted 3 years. It would have big ratings, and then everybody'd seen it before. Whatever, I got that figured out. Don't want to watch it anymore. Our show is in its 14th season because of the education. People are getting something out of it. If you took the educational factor away, the show would wither immediately.
Yeah, well, that's why the Ontario Provincial Police supported me going in the show in the first place, for that very reason. We're trying to reach young drivers. My boss at the time is saying, well, okay, we can catch some bad drivers and give them tickets, but that's not really going to solve anything.
We were super excited when you came on. I remember these discussions in the boardroom. We got this guy who's a cop, and the first question I asked was, will he wear the uniform? And we didn't know the answer, and we're like, if he wears the uniform, that'll be awesome.
He's on duty.
Exactly. And so, and the call came back, yes, he'll wear the uniform, he will be a police officer in the moment. He won't just be a guy representing the cops or saying, I was this or I am this in my day job, my real life. No, you were on the show as a police officer, and it made all the difference, I think.
Well, because so many young people got it. Because if some coppers are just reading out the law, thou shalt do this pursuant Section 1.5. What? They're not gonna let. But then the people are learning the lessons, and we get so many people asking about the show. Just at a call in my news business, and it was over. A bunch of firefighters getting ready to leave. They all wanted to talk about the season. They knew it was coming. They say they watch it with their families. They got young drivers and their families, and they like it for that because they like the safety message.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anybody who works on the road, a firefighter, for example, they're all interested in the safety message.
And our tow truck operator friends like the messages that we're giving out too, about slowing down and moving over for their lights as well as the police and paramedics, firefighters.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of important messages, and I think you and I have talked about this, the frustration, the way it's become so advanced and it's so different. Yet you get your license, no more training.
You get your license, no more training, and like, how to get your license. As you know, there's a woman on the show this year who failed her license 11 times, and then rebooked the test in a small town that has no stoplights, has no traffic, and passed. And when I've told people that story, they say, yes, I know somebody who did that. I did that myself. I've had a bunch of people tell me. My mother reminded me that her neighbor failed in St. John's, Newfoundland, failed numerous times, and then booked a license test on Bell Island, and all he had to do was drive around the island, and it's, easy as pie. She got her license. She would leave, and they live like in that kind of like touristy street that you see on the Newfoundland tourism ads, and so there's nobody has a parking lot, and so I think her name was Phyllis. Phyllis would go up and down the street ringing doorbells with her car running, saying, "Can you parallel park my car?" She did.
Yeah, it is amazing though the way some of the people gamed it to get their license, but then you can't fool physics, you can't rule reality.
Yeah.
And over the years we met some people that
think they can, yeah.
And then they're dangerous.
Yeah. I only figured out this year. This is my take on failing your driver's license, and I thought this after talking to Brittany this year. I think that if you fail your driver's license, your next test should be a harder test, and if you fail a second time, your next test should be harder again. You should have to work at getting it. You shouldn't just try to do the same thing until you fluke into it. I think that every fail should result in a more difficult driving test. I put that out there to you, driver bureaus across the country, and you're all different in every province. Do that.
And that'll make the world a lot safer, I think.
Yeah, it'll save lives. Absolutely. Just like our show does. We're actually saving lives. We touched on it earlier, but I truthfully never thought that the show would save lives. I thought it would be entertaining, and period, that's it. And the amount of people, as you know, we did say it earlier, that contact us to say, my life was saved, or certainly a hideous crash was prevented from techniques we saw watching your show. And
now distraction taking over as number one cause of serious injury and fatality crashes. There's still a lot of work we have to do.
The cell phone thing, it's so upsetting to me because it's the most preventable, easy thing to do to make yourself safe on the road is to not look at your cell phone. And now the CAA reported last year that 26% of crashes involved cell phones. And it's like, as you say, the number one cause of accidents, deaths, injuries, damages, expense, cell phones. Just don't use it behind the wheel. It's not complicated, but the younger people are literally addicted to their phones, and older people too. But it's the biggest issue on roads these days.
We'll have to wrap it up, gentlemen. Say bye to our Facebook friends.
That's it. Bye, Facebook friends. I got other places to go, things to do tonight. Discovery Channel. If you're watching this tomorrow, it was yesterday. Watch it next Monday. I don't know why I'm yelling. See ya!